You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for a new episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. This has been a month, okay? April seemed like it's going by so fast. I just feel like we were just in March, like talking about March Madness and things like that. And now here we are, like midway through April. Like it's just going and going and going. And, you know, I'm liking the weather. The weather seemed like it's in this groove, which I'm here for. You know, I'm feeling real good. You know, I've been relaxing, enjoying my time. I feel like now that the book is done, there's been a part of me that just has had so much ease. I don't know. I've been real chill. I mean, now granted, news cycle is getting wilder, but I think in my own time span, things are not as frantic. Because when you on that deadline, listen, you on that book deadline, there's nothing like a book deadline. Couple of good stuff is just going on around. You know, my friends are doing really well. Oh my goodness, Kelly Nearbot, who's one of my faves, she just finished her TEDx talk that she did out of state, and looks like she nailed it out of the water. I've been seeing all the Instagram posts, and people are really hype about that. She's doing her thing. My friends are coming back to Philly. My bestie, Miss Dr. Parks, soon to be Dr. Parks, Amanda, she's coming back. And I've just been seeing all these new restaurants and things come, and I'm like, oh, we could go there, we can go here. So that's been getting me all excited. Just in general, it just seems like it's going to be a really, really exciting, late spring, summer vibe. I just feel like there's going to be a really great summer coming ahead. There's so much stuff I've been planning and things that's going to be coming anyway, but it just feels, I don't know, everything I keep seeing is in May and June. This is summer. Like, no shade to April. April's been good. When it's not rainy, like, oh my goodness, these April showers are a shit show. But nonetheless. But no, I've been spending my April chilling and relaxing. I mean, as you all know, we just had the interview of the century a couple of days ago, and I've just been at home chilling. These candles that I've been into has been from a company called Chesapeake Bay, Mind and Body, and I've been lighting these candles. They're from CVS, which I love. Like CVS is like my, I'm so addicted because I have all these points. And everyone's like, oh my goodness, you like CVS? Why don't you go here? Because I've been a loyal CVS card holder for over 10 years. And so I get these ridiculous discounts because of my loyalty. And I've kept the same card, which I know a lot of you don't. And also, I don't carry the long receipts. I get it digital. I get it sent to my phone on my app, and I download them from there. But anywho, they have these candles, and they've just been, blowing me away. Also, more importantly, this weekend is special. It is 6 months since I've been married. I've been married for 6 months. And I feel even 6 times better than I did prior. I didn't even know people were counting half anniversaries, but apparently it's a thing. People do 6 months and stuff. It's like a baby when you get to a point where you're like, okay, when people say my baby is 14 months, I'm like, that's a year. That's a year. Just say your baby's what. But people are like, oh, my baby 14 months, 16 months. No. I feel like after 12 months, then you just go with a year. Like they're 1 year old. But people love to do what do I know? I don't have a baby. But I notice people do that all the time. They do the months. They're like, oh, it's 14 months. It's 16 months. And I'm just like, well, isn't that just 1 year? Just thinking out loud. But yeah, it's been a lot. But it's been 6 months and it's been great. I think part of the reason why it doesn't feel like anything too extra is because we've been together for so long. So it just feels like normal for us. It was just one of those things where it was like, oh yeah, April 16th is 6 months. It's like, yeah, it is. It's just been going and going and going. And it's so funny because like I haven't looked at too much when like I was in wedding mode for like the entire year last year, and I went back to look at the wedding, clips and things on social. So if you follow me on Instagram, the hashtag is a very earnest wedding. Yes, all the puns intended. And my Instagram, loops, you can see the on Instagram you can see all the different like stories and things. So I kept the engagement stories, the wedding stories, all of that, so I could just anytime I want to just go back and look, I could just revisit it. And I did, and I said, wow, we really did that. We really had a good time. Like people really had a good time. We all was like in the aura of that. And it was a moment. And I look back and I say, I guess the one thing I say, the best thing I've ever planned in my life has been my wedding. Cause goodness gracious, I was like if you could, if like I don't even know if I would ever be in the same state to have that much care to plan or do anything of that magnitude again. That's why you have to be mindful to marry the person, the love of your life, and get it out the way. Because like I couldn't see myself doing that. I was like, where did that extra energy come from? Where did that extra like time? Because I was doing a master's program. I was in the throes of getting my book deal and starting that, and then planning that wedding and all of that. Like, and then it was in the middle of the pandemic when things were still shaky, like for real, for real. I don't know how I did it, but I had a great team. I had a great family and friends. We had the money, right? We had the money to pay for everything. I think when you have the money to pay for stuff, it don't feel as bad. Maybe that's what it was, because we did have a wedding coordinator. We did have other people. So let me be clear. It wasn't like I did all of the things, but I mean, just all of the preparation and stuff. I guess what we call it producing. I was producer. Definitely was on the producing end. Mr. Johnson was in the financial producing end. He was more of the you like it? Okay, cool. And then, write the check. And then I was on the end of like, okay, well, we just can't throw money at everything. We have to actually be mindful about where the money's going. So, that was the other key point, because with weddings, even if you can have your dream wedding and pay for it, you still want to be able to negotiate things or look at things and compare costs. Because I'm seeing some people have some upcoming weddings coming up, and I don't think they're doing the work to compare costs. There's just things I'm looking at, and I'm trying to. It's been 6 months, so I've been trying to get out the cycle of doing this thing. And someone told me it never goes away, where you get married, and then every time, every wedding or thing, every other wedding or something that you see around you, you're consistently in your head looking at like you're just doing the planning in your head, like, oh, this could have been, well, why did they do that? That doesn't make sense. Blah blah. I've been doing that slightly. It's just a little tick. And I'm trying not to be that person. And it's not, I'm not comparing. I mean, because, like Beyonce can't compare herself to any of the girls out in the music industry. It just would not be fair. So I don't get in the mindset of comparing, because it's just, that doesn't make sense. But there's little things where I'm just like, did someone tell them that they could have did it this way better? And I'm like, well, I'm not in their wedding. I need to mind my business. I just need to go. But there's like little things I've seen. So like, there is a wedding I've seen, well, the hotel rate was ridiculously high, and I'm just like, did you get a wedding package? Did you call the hotel and set up a wedding package for your guests? You know that they will do it, and it will give you a reduced rate. If you have not gotten married, don't plan to get married, or what? Well, if you do, you want to listen. You could call a hotel like they do conventions, and you could say, listen, I'm getting married. Here is a wedding block. The wedding block isn't just, we're going to save some hotels aside for you at the regular rate. It's no, we're saving hotels for you on the side, and we're giving you a reduced price so that your guests can actually be more inclined to stay there, and it's a convenience for your guests. So when I had my wedding, we had found a really good hotel, and we had a really good reduced rate, and we picked the hotel based on two things. One, it being a nice hotel. Two, it being a good price, and also where it was located, because you just can't put people anywhere. You got to make sure it makes sense to the venue and to the place. So we had actually two hotel blocks. We had one that was $129 a night, that was right next to the museum for people who were coming in for a day or lived in Jersey or something, because our wedding, we party like a rock star all night. So there were people who, was probably like, look, I don't want to go home drunk, because, we don't do drunk driving over here. So, we were like, for people who were like, look, I'm in Philly, I'm whatever. I want to be, I'm not trying to I'm not planning to be here for multiple days. They just wanted to have an overnight. We had a nice, affordable overnight hotel that was right next to the venue where they could go straight there without having to drive. It was beautiful, like literally walking distance. And then for my guests who were like literally in Philadelphia for days, I was out of town, we had a wedding block at another hotel that was a little more, but was way better and was a nice accommodations and everything like that. And that hotel experience was grand and people had a good time. So you can do that. You can do that for your wedding guests. You should definitely do it. Some people are just not doing that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you got people coming out here spending, rent prices just to come to your again, I think I have not been called and summoned to be a part of anyone's wedding yet. I mean, some of my close friends, none of them are, it looks like to me right now, are not planning on getting married this year. So I'm in a space where I'm just, holding it down for us until, the next one comes. And then when that happens, I'm putting my hands all in it. Like if they say, listen, you're going to be part of the wedding party. Oh, I'm that person. I'm that person in a good way. Cause I'm going to be the person that's going to come up with great ideas, maximize value, price, not being cheap and skimpy, but also not being splurgy and irresponsible. It's a balance. I will be, listen, I'm not auditioning, but I'm just saying, if you're having a wedding and well, I have I'm gonna say, let me be a part of your wedding party. No, all of my friends, like if they have wedding, they know, they just know. I will be there and I will make it great. But I've just been seeing some things out here with these people playing their weddings. I'm just like, what are y'all doing? And I didn't think I was gonna go in this tirade, but I just how you feel it, and you just like, let me just say what I need to say. Because a lot of times planning weddings, people treat planning weddings like they're just like, birthday parties or dinner parties. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Like planning a wedding is a real job. Like you have to really know your shit and stay away from scammers and people that will shake you down, because there are people that will shake you down for your wedding. And we had a couple of those situations. I mean, you all remember in the previous episode, please, by all means, I have bonus episodes. All season one, the wedding journey was all the rave. But there was, of course, a situation where we almost hired this vendor who do lights and stuff like that. The cost of the light production that they were charging me, the vendor I got instead of them charged me less, and they gave me sound production, light production, and a DJ for that same price that they were trying to charge, this other vendor was trying to charge me. Like, you just have to just shop around. But again, I'll be, for my friends and my face, I told myself, that after I've done this wedding, that like I feel like I could be a consultant for other people's weddings, because it is an art, it is a talent. And you know me, like I have to go through it before I move through it. Like I can't talk about something I haven't been through or don't know people who have, or amplify their voices or have done the process myself. So people are like, well, have you had a badass wedding? Yes, I did. Yes. My wedding was in New York Times. My wedding is going to be in a couple of other great magazines coming soon. Save, I'll tell you about that later when we get closer to that date. But yeah, I've put together a real badass wedding. At a rate that if you was to compare what it could have cost without me doing what I do to know how to hustle and do the work, that wedding was a 6-figure wedding that we was able to get down to 5. Okay. Based on just being smart, being timely, doing stuff early. That could have been a real crazy situation. It really could have. And it was worth that much, but when you know your shit and you know how to bargain and barter, you find ways to make it work. So some people are just not doing that, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying it doesn't have to be this high. You don't have to. There's a better way you could do this. Maybe you could have changed the date. Maybe you could have. Look at me, planner mode. Anyway, I've been taking these skills and planning other events. So one event that I'm helping to co-produce through, of course, the nonprofit I lead, Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, where I'm currently the president. We're having a media professionals luncheon. Tickets go on sale this upcoming week. Go to thepabj.org for more details if you're interested. But it's a media professionals luncheon at Del Frisco's Grill on May 20th. So this will be after the primary, so we can all come together and kumbaya and be good friends. And it's honoring so many incredible Black media professionals in consulting, public relations, media advocacy, and it's going to be a fabulous time. Great food, 3-course Del Frisco's. We're going to have great cocktails. It's going to be a good time. And we're honoring the best. And we're going to be in the vault at Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse, because some of you always like, you're probably like, Del Frisco's Grill. Listen, when I say Del Frisco's, I'm talking about the one on 14th and Chestnut. That is the Big Eagle Steakhouse. Okay, I'm not talking about the grill. If I'm talking about the grill, I'm going to say Del Frisco's Grill. If I say Del Frisco's, then I'm talking about the original location, which there is a difference. Now they both have VIPs, which is one of my favorite cocktails in the city. But Del Frisco's is the serious place. That's where you propose. Del Frisco's Grill is where you have fun and you turn up. It's like a more schwankier, hangout, happy hour, a more schwankier sports beer. It's for guys who go to watch the game in a blazer and button up shirt without a tie. That's for that crowd. You know those guys, and they drink beer not in a can. They drink it in those little tall beer glasses, and it's like $15, and it could be $6 somewhere else. That's what that's for. That crowd. They're like, we still want to get raggedy, but we don't want to get that raggedy, right? It's like, I'm in here with that crowd. That's for them. Now Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse, that's a different vibe. At least without including Thursday evenings, okay? Which do I want to? Yes, I'll make this little remark slightly about this. I'm like, do I want to talk about? Yes. So I know some of y'all have been hearing about this Capitol Grill situation that former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. I just realized her last name was Bottoms in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So she had experience at Capitol Grill over the past weekend. She wore leggings, and they told her she couldn't go in because of the dress code. And it's been a huge fight, a debate on social media about this. And this is my whole thing with this. Listen, first of all, Capitol Grill, because I'm going to throw that shade. Capitol Grill was never, to me, all of that in a bag of chips from day one. Now, in Philadelphia, we have what I call Steakhouse Row. So there's a bunch of steakhouses like right next to each other in Center City. You got the nicest of the nicest and the worst of the worst. You got Del Frisco's, right? You got Steak 48. You got Butcher and Singer, Ocean Prime. Yikes. McCormick and Schmidt's. Ugh. And then, Fogo de Chao is sliding this little behind over there. And then you got Capitol Grill. And then you got Morton's. And then you have Cheesesteak Factory. That's for, you listen, I'm just including any place that serves steak. They're all in a radius of each other. I might be forgetting some. Now, we all know the best is Alpen Rose, which is a little bit on the outskirts from all of the bullshit. But again, there is a row of steakhouses in a loop. And I really have dreamed of just ranking them and doing a ranking list of them from the best to the absolute fucking worst. Might do that. Let me fuck around and find out real quick, because I definitely feel like there needs to be a ranking list of the steakhouses in that area, because there's a bunch of them and they deserve to be ranked. And I need to tell you who's the best to the absolute worst. Okay, but Capitol Grill is definitely on the bottom tier. But they think they're all that because they're a little chain. And I want these people to understand that, as somebody who grew up in the South, in the South, we love chains, for better or for worse. And unfortunately, we also love our own homegrown spots. The thing about what I was telling someone about the homegrown spots is that if you want some really good food in the South, the best non-chain restaurants are not fine dining establishments. So Philadelphia has this thing, and the East Coast too, right? Where they can have non-chain restaurants that have this elevated vibe. Like they have Zahav, and they have, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, my favorite, Vernick, right? Where these are nice, elevated, high, fine dining restaurants that aren't chains that are in the city. When you go to Houston, when you go to Atlanta, other places, there's not that many restaurants like that caters, like that to a wide array. So if you really just want a good steakhouse or places like that, a lot of times they are chain restaurants. And, people like chains because they were like, to some extent there's a level of comfort and cohesion and, consistency, whatever sometimes. And they just mean something different. And so folks in Philadelphia, I know, were like, "What? Why are you doing that? There's this there." Well, yeah. Well, every place don't have a bunch of great Italian steakhouses and BYOBs and stuff. Get out, check your privilege. I'm joking. Check your Philly privilege, your foodie privilege, because it's not like that in other places around the country. I mean, I'm seriously. You're talking to someone who was born in Chicago, grew up in Houston, came to Philly. Now, Chicago definitely is a restaurant scene. They got their own shit. They don't really need chains. But when I think about the Houstons and Atlantas and stuff, they have great authentic non-chain restaurants. The problem is they don't come with that elevated high-end ability. So a lot of times when I was growing up, yeah, we had the best Mexican food, but it wasn't given a Steven Starr look or Solomov and Cook look or Ellen Yen look. It was giving more of a look. This is in the back shack. Come in. You're gonna eat well, but it was never going to be something that you can take. You can have a graduation dinner at, or make a serious marriage proposal at, or something like that. Like that wasn't the place for that. And so chain restaurants typically would be where we would go for those big celebrations, but we would never eat there any other time. So what's funny is that like growing up, when you went to like, I was not a Capital Grill girl. I was a Perry Steakhouse. So if you know about Perry Steakhouse is really good. That's how we did. Like my brother just had his last year had his graduation dinner at Perry Steakhouse. It's a chain, but it's good. It does what it does. It gets what it needs to get done. Okay, is the best steakhouse on the planet? Fuck no. I've had better steak in other places across Texas. I mean, even in Texas, there's Houston. In Houston, there's Vic and Anthony's, which I love. If you've been to Houston or going to Houston, go to Vic and Anthony's. Highly recommend it. 10/10. Highly recommend. But again, these are really upscale chains. Steak 48, Del Frisco, these are all high-end chains. Outside of that, that's what happens. So graduation dinner, romantic date nights, all of those experiences were always done at these like chains like that. So I could see Keisha was probably like, former Atlanta maid Keisha was like, it's at a mall, because a lot of times these restaurants are connected towards high traffic areas like malls and movie theaters. They're never by themselves isolated. Like in Philly, you all will have a huge restaurant row. Malls don't really like, they're here, but they're not really here. This is like a very like retail direct shop place. So I could see her being like, look, I went to the mall. I look good. I'm cute. I can walk up in here. But they hit her with this stupid dress code. And I feel like, again, these restaurant dress codes, they are incubators for racial profiling. It's different, like with the Steak 48 situation. It wasn't, I was not crazy about that dress code situation. I thought that was stupid. But they had the price thing that they set up there. And I think they set the price thing up, honestly, because of the fact that it was the pandemic and everything going on. But that was a very interesting, different take compared to what's happening now. Like, I just feel like Capital Grill, like you can literally put the location in on Facebook and you can see tons of white people not in dress code that's like going there and getting their life. So it's like, how dare you sit up and do this whole, oh, you can't come in because of leggings, come on fitness wear. First of all, from what I've heard, and as someone who has embraced leggings at one point in my fashion career in my life, leggings are not necessarily sports workout gear, because I was never working out in the leggings when I was wearing them. Leggings are not necessarily a fashion, a sports athletic wear. I think some people want to call them yoga pants. No, yoga pants are very different from leggings, but regardless of the situation, I just thought it was stupid that they did that. Like, listen, at the end of the day, somebody want to come to your little chainy ass restaurant. But see, now it's got the people thinking, because I tell people Capital Grill used to be where the deadbeat fathers would go for Father's Day. Okay, if you had a deadbeat dad, he would want to meet you at Capital Grill, or you would go for last minute graduation party. Like if you had a friend that was like, they decided, oh, we actually do got some money in the gang, let's go ahead and go somewhere nice. Capital Grill would take that reservation because they would have some space, and you would just, stack yourself in there and tell them it's 12 people, but really 16. They added the chairs. Look, I'm talking from experience. I went to someone else's, listen, I'm talking from experience. That's exactly the situation. Like these two examples I'm giving you are real life experiences that I've seen happen with my friends. I'm visualizing this through audio, but you can see what I'm talking about. When you go and you didn't make, see, I make reservations, but I can't stand people who don't. but you go somewhere and you trying to get mad at the server. So it was a situation. I was supporting a friend this many years ago. They had a graduation. They did not make reservation plans. I'm like, how the fuck did y'all? Oh, we didn't know people was gonna come out to graduation, but you still should have made one. God damn it, we didn't know. So a bunch of us are like, let's go eat. Excuse me, where are we going with a crowd? Listen, we go to Capitol Grill because that was the only place that seemed like they had some availability. This nice, busboy was really nice. He was like, hey, we do got some space for for about eight or whatever. Like, yeah, we can fit that. We get in there. It was a table for 8 people. Oh, of course, it's more than 8 people. It's about 12. So what he doing? He's adding extra chair. We cramped up tight. Oh my God. And let's not even talk about how it felt when it was time to cut that bill. Oh my God. But fortunately, there was someone there who was acting like they had it. We didn't question where the money came from and how they got the money, but we just said, "Oh, you got it. We're good. Okay, we're wonderful." But those were the days. And so when I think about this conversation about change, it's like, calm down. Okay, Capitol Grill, calm down. Some of you chains that do the most with these dress codes. You survived the pandemic. You are the cat with the cream. Stop licking yourself. You have it going on. You're doing pretty well. A lot of great restaurants with better food had to shut down. Okay, and you're sitting around here acting like your restaurant can't go down if these outbreaks keep going. Because let's talk about it. Right now in Philadelphia, our mayor, our lame duck mayor, Jim Kenney, has now imposed mask mandates for indoors, which is fine. Listen, like I told you, I have got to the point where this mask has not come off because as long as Uber is telling us to still wear masks to get in the Uber, that means because I'm an Uber rider, I still have to have a mask. Like I've never been like, oh, I forgot my mask because I know that I have to have my mask to be in an Uber with the mask on. Period. So I've never stopped wearing masks, and maybe that's why I have not had COVID yet. Praise God. I haven't had COVID, and I think that's part of it. I've been just staying vigilant, been washing these hands. Just telling people to back the fuck up. When I start feeling like I had some type of seasonal, allergies or whatever I thought I was having, it was like 2 days where I felt a little under the weather, a little bit. I was like, okay, it's time to lock up these doors. It's time to shut down. I didn't go anywhere for 2 days. People were like, where is Ernest? No, Ernest is at home. Because if I'm getting a little bit of a sniffle, we're in the house. And I test twice a week. I test, I think I told you this. I test in the middle of the week and I test at the end. So I test on Wednesday and I test on Sunday. Every week I've been doing that for the past, since my wedding. So for the past 6 months, because with my wedding, I was big on testing too. We didn't mandate folks to get tested, but people did. And so I was doing that routinely because I was just like, the worst nightmare I had as a groom was like, I do not want to have COVID or test positive for COVID during my wedding and my birthday at the same day. Oh, I could not. I've been 30 for 6 months. I've been married for 6 months. I cannot. I absolutely cannot. So we shut that down immediately. But like, oh my goodness, the nightmare of that. Thank goodness that did not happen. But yeah, I don't play. So I had 2 days locked down in the house this week. And it was nothing. I just was just like, I don't know if it was sinuses or whatever. I think it's just the weather changing. But I was good. There was nothing wrong. I didn't have COVID. Everything was fine. But like anytime I feel a little, I'm like, stay home. Nope. Because it's not even about COVID. It's just about hygiene and health. Like if you don't feel 100%, you should not go out. Stay the fuck in. Get it down. Get yourself together. For real. Because it's like if you try to fight it and wing it, you can make it worse. And then it could be something. So, I'm definitely fine. I'm on the mend. I'm good. I'm great. I'm fine now. Clearly, I went out last night. Was wonderful. I went to this incredible BYOB. I went to Olea. I think it's called Olea. Olea. Yes, it's a BYOB. It's an old city. It replaced Chloe, which I love Chloe BYOB. Now they replaced it. But this is a Mediterranean vibe. The food was great. I was out with a friend. It was fun. I enjoyed it very much. But yeah, it's, people are, I don't think anyone had let me be quiet. I will just say that these mask mandates, I don't know if they've been officially enforced or they're going to enforce them. I think they're going to enforce them after Easter, so maybe. But it's like, look, if you're going to do it, you got to do it immediately. You got to be like everybody doing it today or tomorrow. For you to be like, oh, let's wait till after. Isn't the cases going to like increase during Easter? Like, I don't know. Cases have been increasing across the board, but now we're with the BA something. I can't keep up these variants. But like I tell people, get boosted if you haven't gotten boosted yet. Stay vigilant. We're doing good. I think we're just now trying to consider and look at what an endemic looks like, which is the reality that COVID's never going to go away, but it's not going to be scandalous. I need media, and I'm talking to my colleagues, some of them, because some of these people are not my colleagues. Like Peter Dosey from Fox News, that's not my colleague. We're doing something. We're doing two different things. I don't know what he's doing, but he's not doing what I'm doing. And I'm doing journalism. I'm doing forecasting, I'm doing commentary. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. I don't know what that is over there at Fox News. But to the others, okay, the others, um, I this whole announcement of every time someone gets COVID that is of public figure status is getting played out. Like it was something like Anderson Cooper, it was the Hill who did this. Anderson Cooper reveals he has COVID. And you know the connotations, like what that sound like. Someone was like, you act like he's like disclosing, oh, he revealed, like it's almost like a cancer or something else, a terminal illness. It's like, calm down. Like, why is this a thing? Like, I remember the very beginning when famous people was getting COVID, it was a story. But at this point, like when Tom Hanks and Rita first got COVID, remember that? That was scary. I was like, oh my goodness, we can't lose Tom Hanks. He's one of the few decent white people in Hollywood we have left. I just couldn't lose him. But like, his son is a mess, but he's been always good. Tom Hanks, I was like, I was worried. Now, your heart was broken because there was no vaccine. There was nothing. So it was scary. Now that there's vaccines and boosts, people getting boosted, I don't need a story like all this. Obama, tested positive for COVID. Why is this a story? It's not a story. It's not. It's not at this point. So it's just, I don't know. Unless the president gets it or the vice president gets it, it's not. I mean, when Trump got COVID before the pandemic, before vaccinations were out at the time, that was a story. But none of this is that. So I don't know. I just think that sometimes people are still, I don't know. It's become a thing. I feel like unless a person is hospitalized because of COVID, then maybe there's a news story there. But just simply being like this person has COVID, it's just kind of like okay. And there's a lot of people who've had COVID since, and it's not like it doesn't speak to anything about the person. Like I think people are assuming, oh, you must be negligent. You must be out here reckless. No, these variants are just getting super contagious. I am just like playing Miss Pac-Man. I'm like Miss Pac-Man. I'm just trying everything I can to avoid the gobbler. I've been doing pretty well. But I want, Mr. Johnson and I have been doing really well avoiding it. But we don't play in this house. Every time we come in, we have our own routines. Listen, vaccinations and masks, but we have our own little routine. We come in, we know what it's given. Because it's just, yeah. I've had friends who've lost their scent and taste behind it. I just think about that. And you just never know how it's going to impact you. So please take it seriously still, y'all. Please do what you have to do. And let's make it through this. So in other random things, or not random things, but other things before I get into some of these hot topics, I saw my book cover. I saw two book cover concepts, but I have picked the dress. I have picked the cover. I know what the cover of The Case for Council Culture is going to look like. Yes, I saw two covers. My team, my publisher, they showed me two options. They narrowed it down to two themes. The other theme was nice. It was cute. But I finally saw the theme that I liked. And I was like, this is the one. This is the one. I won't tell you what it looks like. Won't tell you what it's giving. But it is fabulous. It is great. I like the aesthetic. The concept is just a great concept. And so they're going to move forward in that direction. But I have officially picked my cover. And I'm going to start seeing, some revisions, some updates to that design. And hopefully you'll see it very soon. But the cover has been picked. It is a done bun. We're in production mode now. Like I said, I've done my end notes. I've written my chapters. I've done my thing. Now it's time to see what they call it, the dress, pick the dress, say yes to the dress. I've said yes to the cover. So that's happening. Random, but still good. Um, I'm obsessed with this Earl Grey tea flavor ice cream from Van Lauren's. I have a new favorite ice cream flavor. It's a it's a French ice cream. I guess that's the design of the ice cream, I suppose, or how they curated it. It's a French ice cream, but the flavor is Earl Grey tea, and it's from Van Lauren's, and it is so good. Like I had a pint before this episode. I didn't eat the whole pint. I had like half of it, but I was almost gonna eat the whole thing. I was like, you know what? I need to slow down. It's no, no, no. Put it away. And the crazy thing is that I don't even drink Earl. I don't know if I've had Earl Grey tea like that. It's never my go-to option. I'm a chamomile girl. Like I love chamomile tea. Like I just love the smell, the look. I love it with lemon and honey. That's like my go-to tea when I'm like out having dinner and they're like, "Oh, what do you want to have for tea?" I'm like, "Oh, chamomile. It's so good. It's so cute." And I just love that. Like this is a nice tea. But I've never gotten Earl Grey before. But this flavor has me like, does Earl Grey taste like it probably doesn't. But it is so that ice cream is so good. And I've been navigating my flavors. Like I've gone to Jenny's. I've had the ooey gooey butter cake flavor, and that's a good flavor. Okay, not knocking it off. I like their sea salt caramel. It's very good. But this Earl Grey, the way it's so smooth and light, but then got that depth, that complex flavor, but then still smooth. It just melts you. Oh, so fucking good. That ice cream is good. And I met him, Van Lauren. I met him, the guy whose ice cream is named after. I've met him. And he's a nice guy. And, you know, I went up to him and said, your ice cream is good. He let me have scoops and everything. I was at a tasting because Alex Holly from Fox 29, you know, her birthday is this month. Her birthday's in April. And she have a birthday flavor ice cream that she has. That flavor is okay. It's cool. If it was my flavor, it'd be something different. But it was good. It's good. It's a good color. It's got a floral taste to it. It has some I think birthday cake bites and chunks and stuff. It was good. It's very very sweet. It's very sweet. You know, I just I like my ice cream with a little bit of tang. There's got to be like this little kicker, this little zazz. But I don't think that's what she likes, and it wasn't my flavor. But it was good. It was good nonetheless. But I would look at him like I want an ice cream flavor. I need you to give me an Earl Grey, and then we need to put some type of fruit or some type of fruit to add to it to just turn it around, make it an Ernest flavor. But I need the Earl Grey flavor, but we need to add like a fruit element to it or something to give it a little bit of pizzazz, like vibrate it or something, and then make it the Ernest flavor. Like tea with Ernest, the hot tea or something. We need to call it something. It needs to be a flavor. Let's talk about it, okay? Let's talk about Mr. Van Lauren. So yes, the ice cream flavor is great. And yeah. So I guess you all have been, clearly I've given you lots of content and things to listen to. Cause some of y'all be acting like y'all fiending. Like, you're like, look, Ernest, these episodes, I can't just go off an hour. I need more. I get it. So I like the, content king, give y'all some more. So I said, okay, I gave the bonus episode, which was, well, not even special edition episode, right? With Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman. That needed its own interview. That interview was everything. A lot of you all have hit me up and told me that you thought it was great. I know a lot of you all are surprised that it's him as a special guest. Who saw that coming? I did. But you all were like, oh my God, holy shit. Because we've been talking about that race. And I just said, look, I'm reaching out. I'm going to shoot my shot. And I did. I reached out to them. I said, hey, I want to interview John Fetterman. I mean, this is my podcast. I have a following. People do listen to it. And these are voters. These are people living in Pennsylvania. I would like to interview him. And I got to let you all know, this is going to be uncensored, unfiltered, unscripted. I'm not giving you the questions in advance. I don't do that. But, I mean, he can trust that I'll be fair and I'll be balanced and I'm going to listen. But it's a place for him to talk to voters. His people were like, yeah, they were down with it. We booked it. He was on the turnpike. For all of those who were listening, he was on his turnpike. And he did the interview. That was the interview. We did no edits on that interview. Listen to it. You know how I do it. I don't pause. I don't chop. I don't do anything. Everything you hear, everything that you're listening to, there's been no edits, no revisions, no cuts, no move, no. It's just straight up the show. I just go nonstop. Bars. And then we just put it out. Because I like the authenticity of that. I think people appreciate podcasts and listening to stuff that just feels like a conversation, that feels like, you're doing your thing without there feeling like there's all this extra shit. And I'm not throwing shade at other people's podcasts. By all means, there are other people that like to do all that extra music stuff. Here, we just do it unscripted. We do it raw. We do it uncut. You got your intro, your outro, but the middle is your body. That's just how I do, my stuff. I'm a one-man show sometimes. But some people can't hold a show or a podcast. A lot of people have to have a bunch of features. I'm an artist that don't need a bunch of features, to make a hit. Somebody needs to tell your girl Nicki Minaj that. Like Nicki, like she always got to have a bunch of features. But see, my girl Cardi, she know when to do a couple of guest appearances, but then she also can do her own solo hits to get number one on the charts. Some of your faves can't say the same. So that's how I am. I just, when I do have a special guest, it is a moment. It is special. Like whenever I tell you all we have a special guest, you all it's somebody that you're like, you can't hear anywhere else. You can't connect with anywhere else. We had the Kitchenista. We had Janetta Elzie. Austin Davis. These are people that don't make podcast appearances all the time. And they don't often sit at the couch and, have a conversation one-on-one with someone like me who's going to just be frank. So it was great to talk to Fetterman, ask him the questions. We had it was some great discussion. We had about close to an hour. And we just, it was a vibe. It was a vibe. I really felt like he was really comfortable. I think he was very transparent about what the issues are. This weekend, May 17th is election day. We're officially a month away to the election. 1 month away to the Pennsylvania Democratic primaries. The primaries in Pennsylvania is 1 month away. Are you registered to vote? Are you here for Jehovah's return? No, I'm joking. Are you? I thought it just went together. No, are you registered to vote? Are you going to vote? Yes, yes, yes. Because this is a very serious primary. There's been a lot of mudslinging. There's a lot of edges being pulled. There's still people fighting out here. It's a lot. And at Ernestly speaking, we don't play when it comes to voting. We don't play when it comes to these elections. I always said that one important part of my podcast was always going to be geared towards civic responsibility and engagement. So on this show, we do talk about politics. We do talk about elections. We do. And it's not boring and it's not sexy. No, it's our livelihoods. But we also do so in a way that isn't so wonky. Like I'm not going to throw a bunch of statistics at you. But I am going to let you know that there is data and let you know what the polls are saying and let you know what these campaign finance dollars are saying. So, one of the things that came out in our interview, which I encourage you, go listen to it. It's called the John Fetterman interview. We just kept it cute, straight, no chaser. The John Fetterman interview, the bonus episode, special edition episode. If you haven't heard it yet, just came out. So it's not like you're that behind. Listen to it, sink your teeth in it, take your notes. We talked about everything. We talked about the 2013 incident with the gun incident, allegation about that vigilantism that a lot of Conor Lamb supporters were saying. We talked about his thoughts about Malcolm Kenyatta and Conor Lamb's races and how it's going negative. It's a lot of tea got spilled in that episode. And I'm just going to use my little time to promote another episode of the podcast while you listen to this podcast. But I encourage you to go listen to it. I think it will play a role in how you think about this upcoming primary and why it's important to vote, in spite of what endorsements have come out. Because endorsements don't tell the whole story. And I have a feeling, I think that Fetterman is going to win the May 17th primaries. I think he's going to win. And when he do win, you're going to remember that there was a podcast like this that was telling you things every single week about why this race is more complicated than you can think. And if he wins, and you're like, everybody else told me it was going to be this person and that person, you're going to remember where the real conversations happened. Because I kind of pride myself on having a podcast that is avant-garde, that is very different from what else is being out there, because I don't have any allegiance to any of these people. Like I'm not anyone's campaign manager. I'm no one's paid consultant. I'm just someone who is in journalism, that's in media, that is pretty much a free thinker, a free speaker about this. I'm like, look, if it was going one way or the other, I'm going to always keep it 100, right? It's just what it is. A lot of people can't say the same because either they're paid bots and trolls on bot farms or K-hivers on Twitter that are just obsessed with ridiculous political rhetoric that does not actually mean anything. It's very telling. Very telling. Um, it's just a lot of stuff going on. And very telling. Um, so but what I will say though is that it's gonna be quite the moment. It's gonna be a lot. Um, Especially with everything happening right now. Um, with this election and the thing. So one thing I do want to talk about um, is we're gonna just there is this. So first off, the news about Alexandra Hunt. This is the woman going against Dwight Evans for Congress. This is the elect hoes candidate. Her slogan is elect hoes. Hashtag elect hoes. She is a former sex worker. She was a stripper. She needed to make the money to pay her bills and for college. And of course, she went on to get I think she got two master's degrees, one from Drexel. She went to Virginia to get her bachelor's. She's got another one from Temple. She's very smart. She's 28 years old, white woman, transplant. She's been shaking up the election, no pun intended, with a lot of her stances. And interesting enough, she's taken the next big dip by creating an OnlyFans while running for Congress. Yes, she has an OnlyFans that she put up to break the stigma, or at least she's doing a lot. So she's got a story in the Daily Mail came out that said former stripper running for Congress starts OnlyFans account. Yes. She said, always make sure you tip the workers. My personal OnlyFans content isn't for free. And she is not playing. Okay? She is not playing. She has out fundraised Dwight Evans this last quarter. Like, she is getting the money. She is bringing in the cash. A lot of this is individual donors, no corporate sponsors or anything. And she's out fundraised him. So Dwight Evans came in at $260,000. She came in at $327,000. Yes, she has $60,000 more than him. She raised in this last quarter. She's out fundraised Dwight Evans, who is the incumbent Congressman Dwight Evans. Now, whether she wins or not, we don't know. The Democratic establishment has been, it's a lot. But she's been coming through. She's been coming through, and I mean, it's a race to watch. I don't know if she's gonna win. The Democratic establishment has been really 10 toes down on supporting Dwight. But it is fascinating to see that a 28-year-old who has no political experience or background in that way is running a strong race against a longtime political powerhouse. It is very telling. And she's getting the money without corporate support. She's getting it from just individual donors, which is even more telling. And congressional races are every 2 years. And so to me, even if Dwight still wins, if the margin between her and him are very close, what that says is that Dwight needs to start thinking about his retirement plan in these next 2 years. He needs to find a successor fast. Like, get a black woman, get a young black man, but you're going to have to figure it out because he's not going to be able to hold on to that seat. He's going to get vulnerable. I think, again, being straight chaser, am I the craziest Dwight Evans fan? Not really. But I can be real about the realities that this man will probably still get reelected. I don't know. But I think he might, right? And I think that the reality is that I think identity politics may play a role. I think that because she's like super, super unknown to the local Philadelphia, it's a very black district, they might stay with Dwight based on identity politics, right? He's older, he's been in politics longer. But if you get a young black man or woman who's gotten some political experience and can bring that kind of fever out against the white in the next 2 years, that person is going to win Congress. And so Dwight needs to think about what his succession plan is. Because I think that's the problem with a lot of these older black elected officials. They just don't have a succession plan. They oftentimes want to hold on to something for 5,000 years or be in politics forever. And there's a lot of young people that was once upon a time just like them at 27, 28, when a lot of these people came in office. Like Shaka Fattah got in politics in his late 20s. It's so funny because they're telling all of these young politicos, oh, wait your turn, wait a couple years. None of these people were that old when they ran for office. Like seriously, when you look at a lot of your faves that are now in office for 30, 40 years, Biden in his 20s, Fattah in his 20s, Dwight Evans, 20s, early 30s, these people were young when they got into office. It was not this, oh, I just woke up at 40 and decided to run for office. No, these people were all young when they entered. The issue is they ain't never left. They stayed. And now people want to get mad at young people and act like, oh, it's too soon. No, it's not. Politically, historically, this is the right age for people to run and get involved. Late 20s. These people that finished law school and got advanced degrees. This is actually the right typical time. So it's a weird thing that's happening with our generation, the millennials and Gen Zers. We're being told, oh, wait till later. And I'm looking at these people like, you telling 38-year-olds to wait later to run for office. 38? That's older than the 35 is the year you can start running for president at the age you're allowed to run for president. Over 35 is not a baby. The fuck? It's some weird shit going on with boomers and some of these older Gen Xers where they're really trying to act like they were not out here in their 20s, taking leadership positions. It's intellectually dishonest. Stop it. Stop telling people, wait your turn, wait in line, when you was literally doing the same exact thing. Y'all forget that Martin Luther King Jr. was young when he was doing activism. How old he was when he got married. Like, you all are acting like early 30s, late 20s or whatever is super, inexperienced. No, it is not. This is exactly the time when people should be getting their first seats in office and getting in the political space. This is actually the right time to be doing that because you have the stamina, you have the energy, you have the charisma, you have bright, fresh new ideas, and you also don't have a lot of other things to be worried about. I just feel like when you're like 65 years old, 67, there's other issues in your life you should be considering outside of just politics. You really should be thinking about other things based on life expectancy, based on health, based on retirement. There are other factors in your life that you should be considering. Other than just saying, no. And that's not me being ageist. That's me recognizing that if people do not look at the way our political line is happening in the Democratic Party, people don't look at that, we're looking at Republicans, right? One thing about Republicans is a lot of them are not old, staying in office for 5,000 years. There's a couple, but have you not seen with the Republican Party, for all shits, fuckeries, and intent and purposes, that they typically embrace younger, newer voices within their party at robust speed? And that charisma and that energy that they are captivating in their party for all the wrong reasons, but that energy and fire has made them become a more militant base to hold and keep seats and take seats. It's what's happening. It's what's happening. The dinosaurs of the Republican Party, like Mitch McConnell and a couple of others, they're getting tired. I'm seeing a lot of them in certain parts of the country retire. They're retiring. They're getting tired. They're whatever. But they're ushering in a new young base. The Democratic Party is seeing some of that happen with the Squad and others, but they are making it hard for younger candidates in other races to actually have a fighting chance. There's so much nastiness and corruption and cronyism and nepotism. And the only way these young people are getting in, some of them, is either they have to be robust progressives that have to really buck against the establishment or buck against the current trend, which I think some of them hate to have to do, but unfortunately that's the only way they're going to have a viable fucking chance to win. And then you also have these others who are like the cousin, the chief of staffer, the ex-girlfriend's cousin and brother, like they have to be all in bed with each other in order for them to have that pathway. That's sad. That is sad. It's very rare occasions I have seen where you just get a young elected official that, that means well, that does the work, that runs for office, and means well, gets supported. They are rare in the Democratic Party. They're rare. They're rare. It has to always be too much nasty infighting and stupid ass trolling that has to happen before people get a shot. It's just bad. In Philadelphia, it's been bad. But there is one particular case I want to talk about that is just a textbook example of what's really disappointing me right now in Philly politics. So there is a race right now happening, a state rep race that involves a newcomer, a first-time candidate, but not a young person in politics. In the 100, the House, he's a House Democrat running in the House District 201, which is the 201 is the district. It's Germantown and Logan. If you're in Philadelphia, you know what I'm talking about. So this race is between a man named Andre D. Carroll, who is running for state rep. He's a Democrat. He is 31. He's black. He's gay. He's a longtime Philadelphia resident. He's a native. His platform is very progressive. And he's gotten some good endorsements and support. He got endorsed by City Council member Isaiah Thomas earlier this week. He's being backed by the Working Families Party. Reclaim Philly has endorsed him. He's got the neighborhood networks, Fifth Square. Other labor unions and groups, Run for Something has endorsed him. He's got a good endorsement situation going for him. He's got some good supporters. What's been interesting is that he's going against the incumbent, which is Stephen Kinsey, who is a state rep who's been in that position for 10 years. Kinsey is much older. And what's happened in this race has been something that's been really concerning. I've been following it. The situation has escalated. So Kinsey was challenged by someone in his district, not Andre, regarding his residency in the 201. And he's a state rep who's been there. But the interesting thing is that the address that he is, I guess, named under in his district is where his campaign staffer lives. There's a woman who lives in that house, and she's married with a husband. And the address that he's been using on his ballots to get his petition signatures, that address is the actual address that's owned by his campaign staffer, and her husband owns the house. He has a house, but the house is on the outskirts of the district. So technically he does not live, that house is not in the district, the one that he was found to live. Now, I have followed the hearing, the evidence that was presented, the briefings, it's public record. They had a private investigator. The challengers' attorneys that represented had, they had a private investigator see that Kinsey, the house that's outside the district, Kinsey is often in there. He has a daughter who lives there. The daughter's in that house. The mother of the child of the daughter lives in that house. In addition to, he's often there. His car's parked out there. And it appears to be that he lives outside his district. Now, they had a challenge with the court. The recent judge who proceeded over that was Judge Lori Dumas, who just got elected to the Superior Court, and she presided over it. Now, when I heard this, I was shocked because Stephen Kinsey, who was defending, who's on dealing with this case, he is a big supporter of Lori Dumas. He's went out to, Black Voter Matter rallies. They taking pictures together. And she just had her election earlier this year. Last year she had her election when she won. And Kinsey was a big supporter of her and, campaigned for her and everything. And they know each other. I was shocked that she would continue to do the case because in my mind, I feel like she should have recused herself given the visible conflict of interest. And I think Lori Dumas is an incredible judge. And so I was just surprised that she decided that she would go over this case and look at the material given this relationship. Well, despite the evidence, we're talking electricity bills, we're talking all types of bills that were directed to the other address connected to Kinsey, the judge, Dumas, ruled in Kinsey's favor, which was shocking to me because I don't understand how she could justify it. The justification is I guess the rationale essentially was that he could live in two addresses. It's not like he can't have two residencies, which is true, but I just don't understand how she could believe that he actually lived with his staffer and her husband as a grown ass man that's a state rep. Like, you really believe that that man's residency is really there because the two people said it? So people lied on the oath. It feels like they lied on the oath. I think they lied on the oath. And they're really going to act like this man is living in that house when he literally has a house outside of there that he tends to, and that's justifiable? Thought it was questionable. So now what's happening is the case has been taken to the Supreme Court, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So now the Pennsylvania Supreme Court will decide, and they might overrule Judge Lori Dumas' decision, which if that happens, it's going to be a big fucking deal. And if it happens, and they do overrule her decision, the Supreme Court, which is majority Democrat, what could happen at that case is that Kinsey will be taken off of the ballot, and Andre would automatically be the unchallenged, uncontested. He would win the race. We will be having the second openly gay black state rep in Pennsylvania history. It could be Andre Carroll. The first is Malcolm Kenyatta, who is uncontested in his state rep race now. So he's definitely going to go back to the state house. He's not going to win the Senate, y'all. We know this. So he's going to continue to be a state rep until he finds another seat to run for. And, of course, you have, Andre, who could potentially make history. So we'll see. But when I heard about this, I was just shocked. I really think there's a lot of things here. First of all, I'm just very disappointed that Stephen Kinsey is really trying to act like he lives in the house of his campaign staffer and her husband as a grown-ass man. So you really want us to believe that you're like a roommate to your staffer. And you're staying in that house, living in that house, and it's all good. And that this is a real residency. And the crazy part is you have other houses outside of the district that are furnished that you're paying bills and electricity for, and you don't even have any bills, electricity, or rent that's being paid somewhere else, and you're a state rep. There are some really interesting ethical red flags there. I am not in the space right now in my head to unpack everything. I think that deserves its own analysis, but there's something about all of this that does not sit well with me, and I think something else is weird. Is it a potential political scandal? I don't know. But I think that whatever the Supreme Court decides in the next couple of days will really be telling, because they could say, hey, the decision is there, and that would be interesting. But I have a feeling something's going to happen in this case that's going to speak volumes. And so, this is a Ernestly Speaking exclusive. Maybe you haven't heard about this. I don't think there's been any articles in the press about it, but you heard it here first. So if you hear anything in the next couple of weeks or whatever, remember where you first got this tea from, because it looks like something is happening over there in the 201, over there in Germantown and in Logan, and this is looking a little messy. Also, we're still counting on the days. The jury, after several days, has still not decided on what the fate is going to be for council member Kenyatta Johnson and his wife Dawn Chavot. They've been battling this bribery case for several weeks now. The trial has been going. The prosecution has rested their case. The defense have rested their case. Now it's up to the jury. The jury is still deciding. They haven't came to a decision. And to be honest, it reminds me of Johnny Dock and Bobby Heenan, the now disgraced council member and the Local 98 boss. Both of them disgraced now because they've been convicted. There was a couple of days of waiting too, and there was always the idea of, will this be a hung jury? Will the jury just say not guilty? What can happen? We don't know. It's looking interesting, man. We don't know what's going to happen. But we assume that this week will be the week when the decision will reign. I don't think they'll have another week of trying to fight this through. I think that this week we will get a verdict this week. And when they do, you'll definitely hear from me on my thoughts about it, because I got some things to say. Whether it's a guilty verdict or a not guilty verdict, I got some things to say. But I'm have been trying, because I do know how very sensitive this case has been for all parties involved. I do feel like points have been made on both sides of the case. I'm just curious to see what it is. I don't want to render an assumption because I don't think I do want to see. I just want to see. I want to see. I want to see. I don't want to. I just want to see. I think that's my best response. I want to see because I listened. I have followed the evidence and I don't know. What I will say is that I think there's so many people involved that I don't know how the jury is going to go about this. Are they going to convict everybody or are they going to convict some? Or are some people going to be excluded out and others are going to be held more accountable? What I will say is that I think it's going to be hard for me to believe that everybody's going to get out of this scot-free. I don't know 100% if everybody's going to be found guilty, but I just can't imagine that everybody involved in the case is going to be found not guilty. I don't know if everybody's going to be off the hook. And then there's a part of me that wonders, well, if some people are found guilty, then that means that others will be, because there's no way that this circle can. But I don't know. I could see everybody being found guilty, but I could also see. But like I said, I could see a case being where everyone's found guilty, but I can't see a case where everyone is not found guilty, if that makes sense. Like, there's going to be somebody that's going to be found guilty in this case. It just seems like there's just too many people involved. There's too much evidence that implicates some folks. I don't know if there's enough evidence to implicate everybody. I don't know. I'm still trying to sift through that. But I do feel like there's going to be a big moment, though. There is going to be a watershed moment either way in this case. I mean, we could literally lose 2 city council members this year. And this is before we're going into the 2023 primaries. We've lost Bobby Heenan. He gone. Okay. We could lose Kenyatta. But I wonder, given that his wife is involved in this, what does that look like, right? Like, what if he's found not guilty, but the wife is? So, is the wife going to take the fall? I just think about the family and everyone involved in the case. Like, this is just, people don't think about these things when they happen, but I think some of this happened before they had children. But it's just a lot of things. There's a lot. And I think about those children more so than adults, because children are innocent. Children don't choose their parents. Children do not choose the circumstances to which they live. So regardless of the outcome, the people I feel my heart go out to are the children, and the family, either way. And I also think that, if they are found not guilty, I think there's a lesson to be learned here about the relationships, to clean up your shit, to not have see, here I go talking. I just think that people just need to be mindful about the relationships, really pay attention to those conflict of interests in these types of situations, really be very attentive and alert about what these relationships mean and really recognize them, period. So, yeah. Quickly, a lot of people have asked me about the Brooklyn shooting. I mean, look, the police department has the New York Police Department has over a $10 billion budget. Yes, over $10 billion is in the New York Police Department budget. The fact that it took them a 30-hour manhunt to find somebody, that a 20-year-old everyday worker, this young man, this Syrian immigrant, 21 years old, working class, caught the guy. 21, caught him. And it's so funny because for all of the xenophobia and anti-immigrant status and all the talk about people who are Arab and people of different faith, a Syrian American found this killer. And not killer, but this domestic terrorist. Because let's be clear, there were many people injured. No one died in that shooting. Initially, people thought people were going to die. No one died. That is a miracle. That's a miracle. This person does not have good aim, apparently. They just did not know how to shoot, which was good. People got injured, people got shot, but no one died, which is very good. But that being said, MTA, whatever, didn't have the cameras working, which people try to say it's not the police fault for that, whatever. At the end of the day, while police were out here in these neighborhoods shaking down people, terrorizing innocent poor people in neighborhoods looking for this black man, somebody who was 21 years old found them. But yet these people are going to get overtime. I just think this is just one of those things where it just tells you the importance that community, we all we got. We can get our own bad guys. We can handle our own situations. For all the money that we fund in policing to do the goddamn most, it does not yield. It does not yield. It does not yield all the money that we put into it. We just put so much money in policing. And when these moments like this happen, it just reminds you of why we should invest more in the community. That community should be more empowered to deal with its own conflicts and issues in ways that will lead to justice, and that we don't need police in the way that they're currently being utilized. We just don't. This is not working. It's a lot of money. 30 hours, all of that energy, all these people in the force, and yet the person that caught them was someone else. Get it together. Period. Speaking of others that need to get together, well, first of all, backtrack. So when it came out there was a black man who did this, a lot of people, was ready. Okay, the conservative, they were ready. Okay, they were ready to pull out all types of ideologies about who this man is and was and all this and the third. And it bombed because this man is a crazy man. This man is anti-black. He is racist. He is homophobic. He has issues with everybody and everything. He don't like the mayor of New York City. He have said crazy things about other black people. He is a problem. And I know they were ready to go and really draw this black extremist identity extreme. They were trying to make it seem like this man had a racial issue against just white people. No. He didn't like anybody. He was Islamophobic. He was anti-Semitic. He had a lot of issues. And he put up YouTube videos and everything, sharing a lot of his crazy, fucked up thoughts. This motherfucker was a problem for all. Okay? So they had to shut that down because I was like, again, like I said before, there is not this widespread propensity of black people in a country where, granted, there's been a lot of racism, slavery, just, white supremacy that hurts a lot of black people. There is not a collective of black people that have this crazy, obsessive, militant mentality to just kill innocent people in the same way that white supremacists and neo-Nazis have. I wish that there are white people who would stop trying to find commonality in domestic terrorism amongst blacks and white. It's just not there. We're not those type of people. That's just not who we are. We just don't have this widespread conspiracy. But I will tell you, if you watch Frontline PBS, because that's my favorite YouTube, one of my favorite YouTube channels, next to Love and Hip Hop, you will find that there are documentaries, good ones, that will tell you and educate you that there are tons across this country of private, secret militia of white supremacists and domestic terrorists that are invested in trying to, quote unquote, take this country back. There are none of black people. We are so surveilled and terrorized and spied on so much that we don't got that going on here in the United States. It just does not happen. And where has it happened? You think you're going to see a bunch of black people roll up on the Capitol and tear the Capitol down like that? When? When have you seen that in modern history of a bunch of black people, right? A bunch of black people, like militant, armed, right? No. You saw during the Black Lives Matter protest, there were individuals who were protesters that damaged property. They were not armed. It wasn't a sea of them armed like a militia coming in trying to kill people. No, that's not what happened. You have not seen that from us. We have never stormed the Capitol like that. Those were white people. Those were white people that were clearly not being surveilled the same way that black people were, because there is racial profiling in surveillance. Let's be 100. There's racial profiling in every aspect, right? Racial profiling at Capitol Grill, racial profiling at the Capitol Bill. Like, it's just racial profiling across the fucking board. Whether you go to Capitol Grill or you go to the United States Capitol, there is racial profiling everywhere. crazy thing is that while they were too busy searching down black and brown people, they were letting these white people be in their own, cocoons and plot to do far more harm and damage than anything you thought black people were going to do. That's the fuckery of it. Like, what was y'all doing these past 4 years? What was the FBI doing? What were all these institutions doing? They clearly were not following these individuals. Something like that should have never been able to happen. I don't understand how, with all, like, if you saw a crowd of black people out on January 6th, 2021, that was just like that, with flags not liking the presidency or the future of the government, and you saw that kind of energy. Could you imagine? Like, could you seriously imagine that level of crowd, that level of energy? Could you imagine? They listen, I have covered local protests in Philadelphia, and I've seen more armed police looking like SWAT troopers outside of a damn, Hard Rock Cafe for just 12 protesters. I've seen officers on bikes all out like they're the SWAT team guarding venues in Philadelphia for a small core, quote unquote, of protesters that were unarmed. But yet you go look back at January 6th and you don't see any of that level of scrutiny, security before things went south. So you want to talk about patriotism and public safety. It's interesting how there were people who died during the insurrection. Died. And you got people like Tucker Carlson and these other Republicans like, oh, there was a political dispute or it wasn't this massive thing. Like, they downplay it, but then they want to show cameras of Black Lives Matter protesters. And I'm just like, but y'all not gonna talk about the insurrection though? Fuck y'all. Like, I can't do stupid. Nope. Not going to entertain. I don't do disrespect. Like, I'm just not going to even act like these are fair conversations. Just say you don't like black people and keep it the fuck moving. But they've actually said that several times. And people keep acting like there's going to be this greater good. Fuck y'all. Common ground, whatever. But speaking of which, Ed Buck, which I don't know if you all know this, was a gay, old, wealthy, white Democratic donor in Hollywood. He lived in West Hollywood, donated a lot of money to a lot of Democrats, including Hillary Clinton and everything else. Old white man, gay man. Well, he has finally been sentenced. He was convicted of murder last year. And I've been covering Ed Buck for many years now. There's been other people, Jasmine Kasnick, who did some great investigative reporting on Twitter about this for a while, bringing this issue up. A lot of black gay men were found dead and drugged inside of this man's apartment. And consistent cases of people dying. And no one was paying attention to it until a second or a third one had died from drugs. Like the fentanyl laced, he was doing party and play. It was disgusting. In his house, dead. Just black men going in there, sex workers. He was paying for sex. Young black gay men going to his house that he was flying. He flew one over from Houston. He was taking them to his place, meeting them on Instagram in the DMs and shit. And literally, they were dying. And nothing was being done. There were several protests outside his apartment, all types of things. This man was disgusting. And he was protected by the establishment. And so he wasn't. So now he has been sentenced to 30 years in jail, and I hope he rots there in prison. Hopefully he rots. It's despicable. It's despicable. I have nothing nice to say. Nothing. Period. Fuck him. So, it's been a lot. This has been an episode, hasn't it? Black Lives Matter leaders, every time, right? There's been a lot going on. And this week they had a press conference. One of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, Patrisse Cullors, she's been defending Black Lives Matter's decision to buy a $6 million home in California. People have been having issues with their finances. They're back in the news again. They're publicly dismissing these allegations that they mismanaged millions of dollars. The New York Magazine, that's Sean Campbell, an incredible reporter. He's been really covering the financial issues over at Black Lives Matter, the national organization, of course. and he's been covering them. And I was a part of this package, of course, that New York Magazine did earlier this year, talking about 10 years since Trayvon Martin. I did the piece about Campaign Zero's issues. He followed the money of Black Lives Matter, and he's continued his reporting with New York Magazine to do it. It's been some great stories that's come out of it. And so he revealed that they purchased a $6 million home in Southern California with donated funds. And Patrisse Cullors, okay, who was previously the executive director for Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. So this is what she did. They did a closed roundtable press conference last Monday. And they've been dismissing the press, the articles. They're calling the articles, quote unquote, misinformation, disinformation. They said, saying that they're, claiming that any lack of transparency about the multi-million-dollar property was out of concern for the leader's safety. So they're using safety as a shield to guard the information. They're saying that they've been surveilled by the FBI, and she stayed at the home for 4 nights while the FBI investigated a death threat and talked about that they used the campus as a haven, as a safe place, and that derailed an announcement strategy. So she said they didn't put it out there because the FBI has been looking for them, and there was death threats, and they had to find a place to hide and be safe in. Are you serious? So you spent $6 million of donor-supported funds to get a $6 million house so y'all can hide in from death threats, and you're claiming that was proper use of the funds. First of all, a $6 million house, calling it campus, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. So the Associated Press, they reported, they've been doing some auditing of the funds. They said that they had got $90 million in 2020 and committed 21.7 of it in grant funding to official and unofficial BLM chapters. And they said their operating budget is $8.4 million. But you got a house for $6 million? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. It's a lot of questionable behavior. And they're getting mad and defensive because they really feel like people shouldn't be asking them all these questions, and they feel like they're being surveilled, all of these different things. I'm sorry. I think she said something like she's triggered when she hears about a 990. Patrisse has said that's triggering when they hear about this. I'm sorry. It's a non-profit. You have people's money. You have to be accountable for it. There has to be some justification for the expenses. You don't get money and do whatever you want with it, and people give you money to do certain things. What have they been doing with all this money? Lord knows what. The issue is that, in my opinion, because I will never give to Black Lives Matter Global Network, right? You can support Black activism, you can support community organizing without giving money to Black Lives Matter Global Network. I just want to let that be known. I don't know if people know that, but a lot of times, white people specifically are lazy in doing the research to explore local organizations, grassroots groups. There is this collectiveness, because I know a lot of Black people was not giving $90 million their money because we're a little bit more selective. We like, well, where is money going? Where can I put it at? I've never have given money to Black Lives Matter Global Network. When I've supported activism of groups, they're local grassroots organizations on the ground in your neighborhoods and your communities. Support local activism and grassroots efforts, because honestly, these national organizations sometimes, y'all, they're not, unless they're putting money to support local efforts and they're being more transparent about that, it's for the birds. It's really for the birds. It's really for the birds, y'all. I don't have anything, I have nothing creative or nice to say about it. It's really for the birds. A lot of the best resources for that kind of work needs to go local. Support local campaigns, support local efforts, because the national efforts, it gets spotty, because that $6 million that went to this house for her to hide in or whatever could have been used for other, necessities and means. So, not feeling it, questioning it. I think we should all be critical. Angela Davis, who's a longtime activist, she was on there and she said she had not reviewed all of the evidence or information, which was already a red flag to me, but she kind of made this correlation of acting like all of this type of criticism It's FBI trying to, stomp on the movement, or pretty much. That was the inference she was making, or she was implying. And I just feel like this is not just government conspiracy of people just trying to shut down this movement. What it do? I mean, granted, there are haters and there are critics and there are cynics, but honestly, this is bad leadership too. This is just bad leadership. We got to be real about how movements will crumble based on bad leadership and mismanagement and corruption. And none of these groups are above that. And when you lack transparency and you're playing with major money and people are seeing you out here living good and having shit that they can't even touch or attain, but there are people out here dying, you make money off of the backs of dead people. And you want to sit around here and you want to act like folks asking you what you're doing with that money is triggering? Fuck out of here. Like, people got to stop using all of this damn therapeutic language to try to coddle and try to, cover up their shit. No, not everybody is gaslighting you. Okay? That's a very specific term. Not everyone is gaslighting you. Not everything is fucking triggering. You mean you nervous because you lying? Stop saying triggered. You're not triggered. You got a guilty conscience. That's what it is. It's a guilty conscience. A lot of people want to use all these other words to show what they're doing. Oh, I'm being gaslighted. Or this person's a narcissist. Not everybody's a fucking narcissist. Like, can you find better words in your vernacular? Goodness. I feel like every couple 2 years there's a new term or a new phrase that people use out of turn. And everything becomes that term. Right? Do y'all remember that? Do y'all remember when the term was abusive? Like, everything was abuse. Everything was abuse. Oh, this person's abusive. This is my abuser. My abuser. Everything was abuse. And I'm not saying that there wasn't people who were abusive, right? But there were people who just used that word and it was like, what happened? We broke up. I broke up my abuser. Okay, what was that like? Oh, they were just mean to me. We disagreed. We argued. So y'all was a regular couple and they argued with you and now they're abuser. Stop it. And you guys say stop it because for people who've been in real relationships and have had real experiences with abusers and people like that, when you hear people use that terminology, they have actually manipulated it as a way to try to garner sympathy or money or grift. Like, let's use a new word and make this. Can we make grifting? Like, grifting has been, going viral, but can we just put this in the fucking grift jar? Because a lot of people are using these words and it needs to go in the grift jar. Because that's really what's happening. Everybody's using all these terms out of context, right? Remember safe space? Remember when safe space was the thing? When everybody used safe space for every damn thing, everything was a safe space, even if it wasn't. You know what I'm talking about? When unpack, when motherfuckers really was still holding on to shit, but they really wasn't unpacking anything. Like, every cycle we see people use terms that fade out. Remember the ways in which we have to unpack the ways in which this is happening, and or they do this stupid ass deep thinking thing. What does this look like? And we're trying to explore the ways. And what does this look like? And what does this look like? Oh my God, shut the fuck up! No one talks like this in real life. Stop it. Cut it out. It's so pretentious. As somebody who's been in higher education and academia, I try to tell a lot of these people who come from the community that get in academic spaces, they take on this jargon and they are so unapproachable, unrelatable to regular people. At some point, you have to recognize and understand and unpack the ways in which all of that is bullshit. And sometimes you just have to meet people where they're at. And you have to also read the fucking room. Do that. Read the room. Sorry. Just had a lot. I just had a lot. So, there you go. So, moving along. I'm going to take a deep breath. For all of my journalists listening to this podcast, let's take a breath, journalists, because I'm going to say the B word. No, I'm not saying bitch. No. No, not black, with a capital B. No. A word that is triggering. Triggering. Bloggers. 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 Yes, bloggers. I'm talking about bloggers. This Rihanna and A$AP Rocky situation is the number one reason why I keep telling my people, you, stop spreading rumors and believing bloggers. We have to stop. It has to stop. I've never been one to entertain the fuck shit. Let me be clear. Let me keep 100. You know what I'm saying? Let me keep it 100. Like, let me keep it 100, okay? Because I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm so fucking over it. You know, I'm so fucking over it. You know, I'm so fucking over it. Like, I'm so tired of all these people who be with it, because mm-mm. I so let me get into this because so much has happened. So you all have followed this probably. Rihanna. Let's talk about Rihanna. So Rihanna, which I'm calling her Rihanna, a lot of people like to call her Rihanna. It's Rihanna. That I'm trying to call her by her actual name. So she's pregnant with ASAP Rocky. That's another conversation for another day. But I hope her a healthy, well pregnancy. Rumor is that ASAP was cheating on her for another designer who's also in a relationship. Let's be very clear. And she was in this situation for a while where there was rumors about him. There was rumors that he was cheating on her. And this blogger, just act like he had it. So the internet went crazy. Twitter went crazy. It went viral. He was doubling down on the bullshit, acting like he had these receipts. And long story short, it was all a lie. None of it was true. Whatever sources he had didn't tell the truth. But this had made national, international news. People was tweeting about it. People was retweeting it. This person got a lot of clout, went viral off of a lie. And there was a lot of dragging that took place because it was not true. And Rihanna did not respond to it. But the designer, the woman who was being accused of messing with ASAP, that was also a friend of Rihanna, like, she responded to it. And they were shocked because they just was like, oh, this is not going to go anywhere. But it did. And it was a whole lie. And this person doubled down on it. So this person that goes by Lewis, and it's _via_Roma on Twitter. And they then go on Twitter to say, hi all, so I'd like to address the situation. Last night I made a dumb decision to tweet some information I had received. I'm not going to talk about sources, blame others for a discussion that was started, etc. Because at the end of the day, I made the decision to draft that tweet, press send, and put that out with my name on it. So I'd like to formally apologize to all parties I involved with my actions and for my reckless tweets. I fully accept the consequences of my actions for my tweets and had any harm they caused. I have no excuse for it. I've been way too wrapped up in Twitter drama and unfortunately leaned into being messy as a brand, which is something going forward I'm going to move away from. I'm going to take some time away from Twitter to figure out what that looks like and how I can start using my platforms better as I've gotten away from using them for more positive work. Again, I apologize to them for this unnecessary drama. Well, that's a very responsible response. But at the end of the day, you are horrible. Because let me be very clear. Bloggers aren't journalists. They intentionally lie. They desire fame from the misinformation. They slander, they disregard impact, they deny facts, and they disrupt peace for profit. And sadly, Rihanna is a black woman who's pregnant right now. Very, very pregnant. That baby could be coming out any couple of weeks now. She's on the front cover of Vogue. She's slaying it. It's been a beautiful time for her. Okay, ASAP has been present. It's been a good time for them. And so for you to disrupt a good moment with that kind of bullshit and distress, how fucking dare you? You're a piece of shit. And it's time for us to shame people. It's time for us to shame people. There's a lot of people doing a lot of fuck shit out here. And everybody does the whole, I'm sorry, I make mistakes. That was not a mistake. You intentionally did that. You knew it was not true. You wanted clout as someone's misery. And if something would have happened to her, what kind of problems that you create? You put a target on those people's backs. Your misinformation, your lies created real harm. And you deserve to get everything that's coming your fucking way. I'm a Rihanna stan, okay? I belong to the Navy. So if I sound like this is personal, I do take it personal. But I'm also sick of it. Because then, what annoys me is that real journalists, a bad bitch like me who do this for life, for real, have to deal with it. where my friends are calling me like, hey, is this real? What's going on? I'm like, this is not true. It's a clout chaser. It's not real. And I hate it. I hate it. I can't stand you people. I can't stand you stupid ass people who want to act like it. Real journalists pull out receipts. They name names or they leave it on the playground. All these sources say shit. You're killing the fucking integrity. Like, stop it. And you do it just for attention. Haven't you all learned about what happened to Tasha K? He gonna be the next Tasha K. And I want these celebrities to send cease and desist letters to those people that do that. Now, let's be clear. Don't go after legitimate journalists like the way Patrice Cullors and the BLM people are. No, those journalists have receipts. Sean Campbell has receipts. I had receipts when I was doing what I was doing with Campaign Zero. D-Ray can say whatever the fuck he wants. He know what it is. But people like us who've done real reporting, who got people on the record. You don't got anybody on the record. You don't have anyone named. You just putting a tweet out, talking recklessly and putting a photo and thinking that's legitimate. Bastard. Like, I have no respect for that. I have no respect for that. And then you want to sit up here and talk about how you can use your platform for better? How about you just delete your account? How about that? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And then you done interview people and did all of this. You know what I'm saying? You done did all of this. And your whole reputation is in the garbage. All this because you want some attention. So. That's that. So I want to move into this as we get closer to the end. Tisha Arnold, who is a famous entertainer, actress, very talented. She was Pam and Martin. She was in Everybody Hates Chris, which is a phenomenal show. She's done Little Shop of Horrors, the original one, and she can sing. And, you know, Tisha Arnold is an incredible icon, Black TV icon. She decided to ask a question about how can Black women support Black men or deal with help Black men not be emasculated or something on those lines. And, you know, for a long time, I've been trying to come up with the words to discuss this whole emasculation of the Black man narrative. And I finally have the words because I've been thinking about it for a while and I hate this damn title. There's all this talk about the emasculation of the Black man, that Black men are being emasculated. Where the fuck are we getting this from? Where did we find this? This is giving me, it's just a dog whistle, y'all. It's a dog whistle for homophobia and transphobia. So let's back this up, okay? And I gotta tell this to some of my straight folks, right? Because a lot of you all listen to my podcast. Oh, you live for me. You love me. Oh, yes, I give you life. But then you sit up and then you perpetuate these narratives, acting like it's somehow productive or helpful for Black men and Black people. It's not. So let's get into this. First of all, it's not Black women's responsibility to deal with anything around protecting Black men. Black women have done more than enough of their fair share to defend and support Black men. The conversation is when are Black men going to support Black women in masking and both? Because I feel like that's actually the real conversation. Because we have idiots like Cam Newton out here talking about Black women, which is, I'm surprised that let me be quiet. It's idiots like, Cam Newton is out here saying all kinds of things. I'm just surprised that we're still acting like Black men aren't being supported by Black women or defended by Black women. I think that's hilarious. I feel like that's, but I mean, you cis-hets are wild. But let's get into some of this. First of all, it's no Black woman's responsibility dealing with anything around a man's masculinity or, whatever that is, this idea of support. I mean, this narrative that there's a scarcity of women supporting Black men is bullshit. It's just not true. Systemically, institutionally, financially, educationally, Black women have been on the front line supporting Black men over themselves to some extent. The same can't be said for Black men because one would argue Black men are so broken as a group that they don't have no energy or support whatsoever to help anyone but their damn selves. Talk about cishet men. That could be one argument that's made. Are these generalizations? Sure, but generalizations have been made about far other marginalized communities, and maybe in some cases there's something to learn from here. So, My whole thing with this is that it's no black woman's responsibility to be doing anything for black men, outside of being respectful, supportive, understanding, a human, right? It's whatever the answer is for how do black men show up for black women. That's the same answer for how black women show up for black men. It's really reciprocal. I look at it that way. The answer is we should all be supporting each other. Point blank, the end. Period. Um, to position women as being the ones responsible acts as though that they're supposed to carry everybody's fucking weight and men are supposed to just sit up and just take it. No. I also think there's this weird notion that only black men are experiencing the violence of white supremacy. Another falsity. If women are to be dealing with sexism, misogyny, colorism, everything else, and I'm talking about black women in particular, then where is the energy for them to also deal with all of the grief and the stress and the bullshit that black men also deal with? It makes me think of the Audre Lorde, James Baldwin conversation back in the day. Go Google that. It was a very important conversation, and it was some points made by Miss Audre Lorde that really proved the point of what I'm making right now. We know that historically and socially that this whole notion of black women supporting black men as if black men are just out here defensive and they can't seem to get their shit together only when it comes to a basketball game, pursuing other anti-black tropes, and also doubling down on homophobia and bigotry to uphold their own masculinity, which was a European concept. I get it. There's a lot of things that black men have energy and stamina to do, and it seems like it's never to collectively try to support black women in ways that does not inflate their own egos. But I digress. I'm just talking about the cishet patriarchy that you guys want to keep on upholding that is not liberating any of you all. So let's get into this masculinity conversation. There is no emasculation of the black man. Now, if I was to entertain the bullshit for a couple of seconds, what I'm hearing is that people feel like in some way black men are being stripped of their ability to be tough, to be masculine. But then I have to ask the question, what is masculinity, right? Because when we say, what does masculinity look like? Well, I'm going to tell you what they are assuming masculinity look like. They're going off of very warped definitions of masculinity that's been projected by white people, white European-centric ideologies of masculinity. So these tropes about masculinity is, men being the head of the household, dominating financial responsibilities, being knights in shining armor, being aggressive in sexualness, being heterosexual. That's a form of masculinity, right? You got to be straight, you got to be, aggressive, and you have to not be emotional, or outwardly emotional. You have to be in a position where you are in dominance and in power. You have to be an alpha, right? An alpha male. These are ideas of what masculinity looks like in this European context that have come through Europe, that have crossed over through the Atlantic slave trade, that has bastardized every other race of men, including those from Asia and those from South America, and other parts of the world. This idea around this performance has been emulated by initially white men, right? Because white men had gunpowder when they came to the Americas and killed and produced genocide here in Americas, right? Now we see men value. Where did the culture of men obsessing over guns come from? That came from white men, okay, who had gunpowder and was able to use it to basically colonize. So this obsession of a man and a gun and being a gun is tough, that was a European-centric ideology. Now we see this idea of being strapped up and holding guns in hip-hop culture within black men. That's a personification of settler mentality and colonialist mentality that happened hundreds of years ago. So all of these hyper-masculine traits that we see in society were perpetuated by white men in European culture because they brought the guns, the germs, and the steel. Y'all read that book by Mr. Diamond. They brought it. And they came to the Americas. They took slaves. They took them. We look through other African history. We didn't have guns in that kind of way. There were ideas about power, but we were led by women. There were women pharaohs and queens and those in lower. There was situations and civilizations where women ruled. And that was okay. There were queens without a king, without a man present. Okay? And there were not this Christianity, this religion that was in those cultures. They were not Christians at that time. They were not in that same patriarchal structure. That comes in with Europe. That comes in with this idea of a man and a woman here, there, everywhere, and this idea of sexuality defining your presentation, your look, your aesthetic. That is all European centric. That whole culture of shaping things as feminine and masculine. It was also capitalism because they wanted to sell products. So you said this is a male product, this is a female product. That was capitalism, early mercantilism and capitalism that was like, let's make a bigger market. It really is capitalism. I know people hate me saying that, but it really is because that was how they made more money, and that was how they was able to also reinforce power dynamics through commerce. So you have a society that says these are men products and women products, and we're going to tout one as being higher than the other. They created a whole entire enterprise based off of gender and this type of performance. That did not stay in Europe. That crossed over levels of walls and barriers. And then it came to the Americas where they came and they fucked over natives and massively killed them and called it manifest destiny. They brought slaves here. They pitted them against each other based on color, and they created a lot of civil unrest. And then they defined gender and those norms based off of body and presentation. So when you look at slavery, masculinity became what was of use on the plantation. So men with strong backs, men with the physique and the energy and the stamina that couldn't get pregnant, that couldn't get there, that defined utility and productivity, because you would define gender and value based on productivity. That's a capitalistic mindset. So you define value and power based on physical strength. Well, they was determining it based on gender. Because during slavery, you saw men were out in those fields, men had strong backs, men had the endurance and the ability to withhold. So their masculinity and their value was determined based on the value of their physicality and performance, which also was determined by tropes about gender expression. Yes, I am dropping a lot of educational truth bombs here. Take it in, learn it. That understanding of masculinity within Black men has followed us for decades, centuries. And it's been like that, right? Where we have seen that idea of what a man looks like and how they perform and how they dress and how they walk and how they talk. It has started there. It's been like this and it's never changed. And the reality is that part of it is that slavery and racial discrimination has reinforced those tropes and performances, because we have to understand that we live in a society where we have made it a crime to be gay. We've made it a crime to be anything that is not the performative traits of what masculinity looks like in our society. We've made it against the law to be anything different than what it is. Masculinity has been governed and doctrined by laws. It's not like you could just wake up and be any, like when people say that being straight is a forced on you, it is. People are forced to be straight in this country. You're forced to be straight in this country because there are laws that will prohibit you from being anything else. People are being forced in this country to be straight. Have you ever thought of that? Like that? Yeah, people have been forced. People say, people are trying to shove this gay stuff down our throat. No, it's not. Y'all trying to shove this straight shit down our throat. No pun intended. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to do that when you create these laws and you double down on discrimination. Like, that's exactly what you're doing. True story. True story. True fucking story. So women, right, Black women, are put in these situations that because of mass incarceration, because of slavery, because of all of the various historical elements that have tried to separate Black families, okay, there has been a hyper-masculinization in society of Black women, where they have really made women, Black women, they've stripped them of their humility, of their humanity, of any aspect of them that's supposed to give them any sense of dignity and grace, because they're now vilifying them in public based on circumstances that oftentimes was a byproduct of white supremacy. Mass incarceration is white supremacy personified. Any institution that creates poverty, any institution that will forcefully try to target individuals not based on actual legitimate issues, but actually trying to create a dynamic where you create infighting amongst groups. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. That's a real issue. That's a real thing. And so what has happened is that when you look at this society now holding on to these ideologies of what masculinity is, what femininity is, there is this assumption that because black women, are in different positions of power in their households, whether they're single moms, whether they are deciding to get education at a higher rate than black men who aren't being allowed to for various reasons, they're now being treated as if they're taking things from men. No, they're not taking anything from black men. The system is. They should not be at fault because they're living their best lives and doing what they can to elevate themselves. It does not come, a black woman's element of success is not to be determined based on the trajectory of what a black man does. It just doesn't. And so this idea of black men being emasculated, like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about Tyler Perry wearing dresses in shows? How does that have anything to do with the masculinity of another black man? I don't wear dresses. Tyler Perry, as a straight man, that's what he claims he is, right? As a straight man, right? Tyler Perry wants to wear a dress, so do whatever. That has to do with me. If Kid Cudi wants to, if Jaden Smith wants to, it doesn't have anything to do. The same way, if I want to paint my nails or get my nails done, what does that have to do with another man? It doesn't. None of this makes any sense. There's nothing about it. This is dredged in internalized misogynoir because there is a presumption that there's the fault. There is someone's fault. It must be gay people's fault, trans people's fault, black women's fault for whatever we're seeing change about how black men are expressing themselves. The truth of the matter is we're not seeing or witnessing the emasculation of a black man. What we're witnessing is the emancipation of black men. An emancipation in the sense that just because we're seeing different black men express or define their gender expression the ways that they are, doesn't mean that there is a downpour of what masculinity is. What we're seeing is them saying, fuck these racist tropes, fuck these traditional, limiting, fatal, parameters around expression of gender that's killing black men. Black men are dying because of toxic masculinity. They're dying because of these very limited scopes on how they can be. Because we have told black men and we've told black people, even black women, how to be under this very Eurocentric code of conduct that is very white supremacist and very much so not for us. We have to disengage. We have to let go. We have to let go of these entrenched standards of modernity that is rooted in racism. If you are a cishet black man and you want to get your nails done, do it. And if you're a black woman or someone who thinks that makes that person gay, unpack why do you think that is gay, quote unquote. Why are we calling everything gay that has nothing to do with same gender relations that are sexual? Why is everything that's not, of your liking automatically goes into the queer box? Why is queer being defined only by aesthetic aspects? Because that is also a problem. I think that too many people are treating the expression of gender as something beyond what the actual reality is. And I keep telling people that gender expression, gender identity, and sexuality are three separate things. Sometimes they might correlate in your viewpoint, and sometimes they do not. And we have to stop trying to always conflate them because they are not the same. If you see a man who is expressing their gender in ways that are not as traditional as that does not automatically make them queer or gay. It does not mean they want to be a different gender. It just might mean they're just a man who expresses themselves in these different ways. Hello. If you're gay, a gay man, that doesn't automatically mean that you're feminine or that you are interested in being a different gender. It does not mean that. You could be also someone who identifies as a male and you're not gay, but you might express yourself differently. Listen, there's 1,000 different ways. A person that is a straight male may not identify as a straight male as hypermasculine. And that's okay. That doesn't speak to their sexuality. How they express their gender does not automatically speak to their sexuality. We have to stop making these correlations. Oh, I saw this lesbian who was super feminine, wore lipstick and a long dress. I was shocked that she was gay. Well, why would you assume that? Does she have to be quote unquote a tomboy for you to assume something? Sometimes there's social norms and correlations there, and others there's not. I always get told that Mr. Johnson, right, my husband, oh, I couldn't tell he was gay. Really? Is there a look? I didn't know there was a gay look. I mean, is there a gay look? I always ask that. I just, they're like, oh wow. And I think, and then there's this obsession too with what I call passability, right? Do you have the ability to integrate into society without being quote unquote clockable? And that those are conversations that happen within the trans community, but also within the queer community. Like if you're outwardly feminine, however people would describe it, or dress a certain way or talk a certain way, that makes you less desirable to some gay men. I mean, there's the whole quote unquote mask for mask culture that is happening, which is just so fucked up. And so that's another podcast episode for another day. But there is a lot of that culture around masculinity that is happening within queer spaces and also within cishet spaces. But I say all this to say that there is no massive conspiracy. There's no emasculation of the black man. It's none of that. What we're watching is the emancipation of black men who are starting to say, fuck all of these gender norms and these systems that do not make me feel whole. Because this is how people get depression. This is how people get suicidal. This is how people get in positions where they cause harm and perpetuate more harm in the name of trying to uphold an image that they're not. It's sad. It's terrible. It's depressing. I think about this guy, Isaiah Rashad, who's this rapper who recently had been outed by someone who put out videos of him, having sexual relations with other men. And it was a whole, big deal when it went viral a couple of months ago. And people were worried about him because they were just like, this was very much out. And I think people was like at first gravitating toward it was just a little bit sensationalism. But then there were people that were kind of like, oh my God, like, something like that happening. Where is their mental health? How are they feeling? Well, they performed at Coachella and they opened up their set to address it in their own creative way. And they're just moving on with their life and doing their thing. But they really was depressed and down for a while. It's just all of this because somebody's doing something that has nothing to do with you. And it's weird because what that continues to show me is like when I heard how people were responding, I was just like, so y'all still have a problem with it. So you've been lying to your gay friends. You've been lying to people like me when you were acting like it was all good. You're still bothered. You're still shocked. I guess you're shocked about the ones that you couldn't quote unquote clock, right? You was, that's the thing. Like, I thought it was all good. I thought you was an ally. I thought it was all good. I guess not. See, people tell themselves in these types of moments. I see you. I see you. So in concluding and closing, because this has been such an episode, such a juicy episode. I had so much to get off my chest, clearly. Abbott Elementary had their season finale. Oh, so good. So good. Teary-eyed, teary-eyed. I'm going to miss them. This was 13 episodes of some of the best DMTV I've seen in years. Such a great comedy. And as a member, of the Board of Governors, for the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Mid-Atlantic chapter. Yes, I judge Emmy submissions. Yes, I'm a member of the Emmys Mid-Atlantic chapter Board of Governors. Yes, did y'all know that? Did you know that? I think I told y'all. Yep, I did. Yep. Been on the board for a year now. So that's why I talk a lot about TV because I'm judging stuff. I was just judging another contest for another region recently. So I like read the Emmy. So I'm really all into this TV stuff. But anyway, Abbott Elementary is great. I think it's best comedy. I hope it wins. Sorry, you Ted Lasso fans. Atlanta's cute too, is good. But Atlanta's had some wins. They have never won best comedy, but they've had some wins already. I want a new show to win, and this is like the perfect show for our time. So I hope it sweeps. And lastly, I know some of y'all asked me this. The Kardashians are back on Hulu. I don't know if I want them to be back. I know people are going back and watching. They're saying it's better than Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It probably is right now, but I'm over them. I thought last year when they had their finale or whatever after several years was Keep Up with the Kardashians, I was very much looking forward to them just being done. But they're back again, and I'm just kind of like, this has gotten corny. This has gotten played out. Can y'all just go on? Like, do y'all really have to have a life with cameras all around you? Do we really care? Have we gotten to a point where we've realized that there's more important people in the world to follow? That break from them was refreshing, and now it's not. And it's just like, oh my God, you guys are some of the most, oh, they were already horrible, but they're just like, who wants this show? Who gives a fuck? Why are y'all back? I cannot. Not a fan. So everyone's asking me, I will not be following it. Yes, I heard about Tristan. We already knew Tristan was a problem. You know, the fact that Chloe holds on to him, she's holding on to him to hold on to a storyline. And Kim and the Kanye thing, it was like at one point, I don't know what's going on there, but it's just like it's just like they're playing off of some real serious shit to sell, and I'm just so sick of it, all of it, just over all of it. Um, but yeah, that's everything for now. And this week is gonna be a lot. It's been these past weeks been newsy. Okay, very newsy, not nosy. I know Philly people say newsy as the way nosy. I mean newsy as an Newy or newsy. Newy, that's newy. Newsy, yes. Newsy. Newsy. That's how I mean, not nosy. But you all say newsy in Philly and it means nosy. Newsy. News. E. Um so it's gonna be very newsy this week. I think this verdict, whatever happens, it's gonna be very telling. It could go either way. And just whatever happens with the rest of these races. I mean, we're in the final stretches, so I'm staying tuned. Register to vote. Get ready for everything. And until then, as always, be well and be best. Earnestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.